Hey everybody, this is Matthew Soltesiak, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast, part of the Minute Media Podcast Network. This season, it's all grit. I speak with a variety of guests and interview key players, gaining more insight on what makes this team go. The Detroit Lions are now in a new, grittier era, and we look beyond just the kneecaps when it comes to the analysis. Welcome to another episode. In this episode, we discuss the Detroit Lions' 20-13 victory over the Arizona Cardinals in Week 3. We'll discuss the offensive effort. We'll lean heavily into the defense in a good way and talk special teams as well, key plays, and overall takeaways now that the Lions are 2-1 heading back home for Week 4. Let's get to it, Lions fans.
This is Trevor Nowaski, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast.
Joining me today is James Cook, the senior sports writer for the Traverse City Record Eagle. You can also hear him on his podcast, The Get Around, that drops on Mondays. Good to have you here, James, especially after a Lions victory.
Always good after a Lions victory. I'm reporting here from enemy territory in Wisconsin. So
I was going to bring that up as well. I appreciate you making the effort from the other side of the lake, and let me tell you, you still sound beautiful.
Well, that's good. That's why I wasn't able to hear the sound on the game, because they had the bar that I had to go to. The Lions game was blacked out in Wisconsin, so you had to go someplace with an NFL ticket. So I had to go to a sports bar and watch the game there, and they had the Rams 49ers sound on, which was a very good game. So
yes, it was. And also joining James and I is Coach Jerry Angers, former Michigan High School Coach of the Year, as well as Coach of the Week by the Detroit Lions, and current scouting and training director for Bull Rush Sports. Coach, good to have you here. Love the Lions hat you're rocking.
Oh, yeah, you always got to rock Not the Same Old Lions hat. And again, they showed us today that they're not the same old Lions.
That they did. All right, guys, just in a sentence or two, just an overall reaction takeaway from this. James, what do you got?
I need to issue an apology to Aaron Glenn for all the things I've said about him over the last year. Unless this was just the fruits of the labor from Matt Patricia, which I don't think so. So, I after that first drive, I was just ready to cheer into Aaron Glenn, and then the rest of the game was just masterclass. All
right, Coach, how about you?
Oh, I'm gonna second him on that. But I think the discipline and the grit out of the team, throughout the game, offense, defense. Offense moved the ball in the first half, defense stopped the ball in the second half. So, a tough win on the road against a really good opponent.
All right, and my thought was it wasn't perfect, but there were some great moments, and we got the job done. And so let's get things started here by hearing from Coach Campbell himself.
It's good to get back in the win column. Our guys were, like I said, we were locked in, ready to go this week. Felt like we cleaned up a lot of things we needed to clean up. And it's still not perfect, but ultimately we knew, and our guys knew, that this was going to be one of those grimy, gritty, unglorious type jobs that were going to need to be done on the O-line, D-line, receivers, DBs, everywhere, man. And that's exactly the game it was.
All right, Coach, let's start with you. What are your first takeaways from what Coach Campbell just said there in his opening comments?
Well, he made a good point. I mean, he praised AG, of course, and I'm going to praise AG because of the discipline of that defense. People I know, the fans are going to say, why is Hutch not getting a sack? Why are we not doing that? But we did exactly what they did. And we talked about this last week, keeping him bottled up, keeping him in a vice, not letting him use his legs as well as his arm to make big plays. And I think that was one of the things, that Campbell emphasized, and the coverage in the back end, and the scheme. And, granted, we didn't get a ton of sacks on him, but we got a lot of pressures. We kept that little short body in the box where he couldn't see over those big linemen.
Coach, I totally agree with you on the fact that, it was a team effort. The defense stepped up when the offense wasn't doing it in the second half, which we'll get into. But the big takeaway is it's still not perfect, is what he said, and that's what I agreed with. But they got the job done in a gritty fashion. They cleaned some things up from before. We saw some progress, and that's what it takes to get a win in this league, and that's success. And You don't have to be perfect. So let's move into what we liked about this one, because there's a lot more to like about this one than just a week ago. Obviously, when you get a win, you expect that to be the case. And Coach, I want to start with you on rushing yards, okay? Rushing yards was huge. The Lions rushed for 188 yards in this game, and I know you something caught your eye on this one. Go ahead and let us know.
Well, I think it was the big thing with that was they kept, they kept the ball out of their hands. That was the big thing. They kept the ball out of their hands. The time of possession was lopsided, and I think that was the biggest thing. And we said we're going to do that. We had a couple critical a couple critical penalties that would have probably tacked on some more rushing yards. Okay, so I think those are some of the things we want. But again, that opened up our our pass game, and it opened up Jared Goff to get another big run for us. So it's good in both guys. But one of the biggest things I noticed, and people are always saying, why are we not giving Gibbs the ball all the time? And oh my God, he's our breaker. Or why is Monty not carrying it? I watched those guys throughout the game tap themselves on their helmet to get me out of the game because my legs were tired, and let my partner carry the load on both sides of those guys. And I love what a team effort. Guys not chasing stats, chasing victories.
Well, yeah, and that's something we've seen time and again with the Lions having both Gibbs and Montgomery. James, what do you want to add to the rushing attack that the Lions had today that you saw out of it?
Yeah, I mean, the time of possession, the Lions had 16 more minutes of time of possession than Arizona. That is so incredibly lopsided, and it was just awesome to see for them to carry. I wanted to run the ball more, more than they did. Goff only threw the ball, I think, 23 times, which is a very, very low number for the Detroit Lions for the last 3 years. So just seeing him just pound the ball, I just love that because it worked right from the get-go. So, they sprinkled the pass in when they needed to here or there, but they just stuck with it. That's something that I really liked about this game plan, is just sticking with the run when they have kind of tended to deviate from it, even when it's been working.
Yeah, when the way they came out and ran the ball early on was awesome. And getting that time of possession, that just builds on itself throughout the game. And Coach, again, talk to us about the no-brainer aspect of how that plays a role in the fourth quarter as well.
Well, you're leaning on them. You're leaning on that D line, and it tires them out. The other thing too, let's talk about what we show in those films I put on last week with the one down lineman. When you're staying ahead of the chains or ahead of schedule in that situations like the Lions did with running the ball, they weren't allowed to bring in their gimmick plays, their loop blitzes and their guys one down linemen. And look at the one big play at third quarter, I think it was. They got to us and sacked Goff with 3 down linemen because they ran a huge loop and we weren't able to pick it up. So, that kind of dictated what front they were going to have in with us running the ball. And we forced them to keep that in there because we were running a lot of double tight stuff.
Yeah, and that really helped with our running game later in the game, because it wasn't just our running backs being fresh. Our offensive line was feeling it. I mean, there was one play where David Montgomery's feet weren't even on the ground, and you had Zeitler. You had, I saw St. Brown get in there. I think Decker was in there. Sewell may have been in there. But they pushed him like an extra 7 or 8 yards after the 3 or so that he had run. And then running game, on 3rd and 12, the Lions ran the ball. Gibbs picked up the first down. This is amazing, because we've talked about this before, how defenses can't just game plan us for a pass in that situation anymore. And then if they have to play the run a little bit more, it can open the pass. And that play right there on that drive led to a play that it looked a lot to me like something James witnessed in Green Bay a couple years ago, and he's in Lambeau right now. Well, he's not at Lambeau, but he's in Wisconsin. And that was the hook and ladder play. And I just started yelling, and it probably scared half the people in my house because it was so awesome. James, what did you see on that play? And Coach, I want to hear from you on that as well.
That was pretty amazing, and it was a pretty gutsy call too. I mean, they were playing press coverage on St. Brown, and then normally you would look to play that a little bit more when a team is playing off on the receiver. So that might be another reason why it just surprised them that much even more.
Have you ever tried to explain football to a kid? It's near impossible to make it make sense. I know my girls didn't get it at first. Well, meet Future Fans, an innovative brand that helps little kids become big fans by embedding the rules of football into parallel games and activities. My daughters and I read through the book and we played each of the games. Their excitement grew as we progressed, and at the end, you could see the connection between the activities and how they correlated to understanding football. It's a well put together product. Folks, in addition to running Not the Same Old Lions podcast, I'm also a teacher. I know a thing or two about learning. Future Fans specifically designed their product to engage and educate kids about the game of football. My daughters aren't just fans of watching football either. They're now playing flag football too. And they're big Lions fans. If you want your kid to understand football, Future Fans is for you. It's only $49.99. Use the code LIONS at futurefans.com to get 10% off and unlock a lifetime of memories with a kid in your life starting now.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret? With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/try to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/try.
Coach, were you shocked that the Lions pulled something like that? I mean, we've been hearing, they're not getting that creative anymore and stuff, and they were at that part of the field where, we wanted them to keep moving and get into the end zone, and that did everything.
Oh, it did. I heard Golf talk about it. He said they've been practicing that play a long time, and they picked the right time to use it. And I think the biggest thing is in those passing situations, whether it's that run play you talked about with their different looking fronts, we were able to get on bodies. And this play was the same thing. They fly to the ball so much that by setting St. Brown up in that shorter route, which is what, if you remember last week, Tampa was getting 2 and 3 tackles on us on that the Lions set them up, hook, line, and sinker. I mean, it was beautiful because, I was shocked. I was like, oh my God. But hey, use speed. The best thing about it is I have both of those guys in my fantasy team. So that's got to be worth 60 points.
That there should be something for that because that was pretty spectacular. And you know what else was spectacular? The start of this game with Jared Goff and the way he was passing. Now, James, you said he threw the ball 23 times. If you doubled that still wouldn't be as much as he passed last week. And so this was a much healthier number. I think we're all surprised by the lowness of the number, and that speaks probably to a lot of the Lions' attack in the second half of this game, especially with them trying to run the ball, wear down the other team. But he was dealing early. He was on target. He was in rhythm. And, in my prediction, I said he would target Sam Laporta 8 times. Well, Laporta got knocked out of this game here and there. He did target the tight ends 7 times, though, and so that almost makes 8. I was in the ballpark on that one, but he was passing early and often and on target. What were you seeing out of that, James?
Yeah, he looked a lot more confident and had a bit more zip, I think, on his throws. Interestingly enough, the one interception that he threw was actually on a play action pass, which we were talking about how they need to do play action a lot more. But yeah, 18 for 23. I mean, that's incredibly efficient for the game. 2 touchdowns because the one the hook and ladder counts as a passing TD, which is weird because Gibbs has technically in the game 0 receptions, but a receiving TD.
And 20 yards gained on 0 receptions. That's almost like the Marshawn Lynch who had, what was it, like 4 carries for 2 yards and 3 touchdowns or something like that one year where, the numbers don't add up, but they're there. So,
yeah, the statistical anomaly.
Coach, what are you seeing out of the receiving game in this one? You know, they went to the tight ends more. St. Brown, this is the type of game we thought we would see out of him, and that's not 19 targets, but 8 targets, and he was making plays. There was a critical 3rd and long play, and Goff went to him, and they got it taken care of. And Tim Patrick only had 1 catch for 8 yards, but do you think they brought him in to help with the pass or with the run blocking as well? What were you seeing out of the receivers and the tight ends in this one?
Well, something we talked about in pregame, I brought up 2-by-2 formations, 2 receivers on each side. And then I said that it'd be nice if we could get into the 3-man side or get into levels, different levels in the pass game. The Lions went different levels in the pass game. They were throwing 2 and 3, they were throwing 3 receivers, low, medium, and high, which now you can't double anything. So I think that's one of the things with that pass for that first down to St. Brown. I think with Tim out there too, he's been able to stretch the field. And then, Wright had 3 receptions, I think, in the first 2 drives. And then of course they targeted him on the interception. And that was that level concept. And I think it was nice to see that where they put in, they also ran levels with the guys coming across from the other side, but gave Goff 3 receivers to read on one side of the line of scrimmage instead of just reading 2. And it makes a big difference. And he found him and hit him. I mean, did he have an incompletion in the first half?
I don't believe he did.
No. So.
And I do want to point out, he probably should have 1 more incompletion. It looked like he was trying to throw the ball at the feet of David Montgomery just to get rid of the ball. And David Montgomery showed how good of a receiver he can be, where he scooped that thing up and I got like a 3 or 4 yard gain rather than just an incomplete pass. So some props to David Montgomery there. Oh, and we talked about the Lions rushing. I guess one more thing. I mean, Jared Goff had an 8-yard run in this game. And that was a beautiful 8-yard run to seal things. We can get to that later. But you know what? It's not a part of his game, but in a situational moment, it can be a part of his game. And the Lions are intelligent enough to use that. You guys, we've talked about the offense a lot already. We need to get to the defense because the defense was huge in this game. I think we all loved our defense. We know how much we would love the defense, Coach. The fact that James is issuing apologies to AG. And yeah, James has not been a proponent of AG for a while, and I appreciate him admitting that and not just trying to shoo it away. He's like, you know what? I owe an apology. So, James, since you started with this, I want to hear from you on defense, and then we want to go to Coach and see what he thought. Well, what are some things you liked about the defense?
Yeah, well, I'll own up on mistakes. I was wrong on AG. Although I will say I hit the over on Goff's rushing yards and the under on the points.
Nicely done.
But yeah, the defense has just been tremendous. I mean, about the only thing aside from a few penalties here and there, about the only thing you can criticize his defense for is that quarterbacks have ran pretty well on the Lions. The primary ball carrier, however, though, for this whole season against the Detroit Lions defense has averaged 2.76 yards per carry. Teams running backs. Once you take away the quarterbacks, and they haven't allowed a single run of 10 yards or more in 3 games to a team's primary running back.
That's incredible.
So, yeah, the run defense has just been great. I mean, that's my notes that I have from this game. I think one of the first things I wrote down in here is just that the run defense is looking great. After the first drive where Murray was able to run, they took that away. I'm not sure what change it was that they made. Maybe Jerry has a little bit more insight into that, but whatever they changed, it took Kyler Murray's running away. After that first drive, it just wasn't there.
Well, that's an excellent point, James. The Lions gave up 77 yards total rushing, and 45 of that was Kyler Murray. Coach, talk to us about this rush defense by the Lions.
Well, those first big couple rushes, the one he got Hutch good because Hutch squeezed down to get the inside run play. Basically, this is what I do. I'm guaranteed when he came to the sidelines, AG and Williams, Coach Williams, then brought him over and said, dude, stop. Just squeeze down, keep his outside shoulder covered. And that's the biggest thing what they did. Barnes missed one early too. I think Barnes came down and missed one early. And then I think they went to a little wider rush in that concept and used players on the edge to make sure they made sure they kept him in. A lot of it I saw was some screenplay play concept where as soon as he started to look like he was going to break, one of their safeties would rock down. There was a couple of plays. I don't remember exactly where they were, but so I think that was the biggest thing. And like what I said earlier was the discipline part of them hemming him, vicing him in, keeping him in, using 4 guys to keep him in and then bring some pressure up the middle for those run plays. And the front 4 just did a great job. And off of that, we're talking about good things. Rookie stepped in for McNeil, and I think the rookie Wingo played pretty well at the D tackle spot, as well as the other guys. But just for him to step into that critical situation was huge. So that was the biggest thing. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing what they did to stop that count really getting out there.
Yeah, and that we're going to get into injuries here because that played a role. Like you said, Coach, those guys had to step up to replace some of those. Kendall Vildor, I think, was even there at one point. Yes. Terry Arnold was out over on the sideline. A lot of different things happened with there. I'm going to move back to the secondary a minute, and I think you guys were going to go there next anyway, which is Kirby Joseph. I mean, what a play or 2 or 3 or 4 he had in this game. The big first one that everyone probably recognizes is that interception in the third quarter when Kyler Murray went deep. And that just stopped that drive. And that was nice to not just get a breakup, but get the interception and change the course of field there. But tell me the other good moments you saw out of Kirby Joseph, because I know he had a lot of them out there.
And he had some huge tackles. The one play I remember was I think it was the fourth quarter when they threw to the 2 receivers going down the left sidelines. And Branch and Kirby Joseph just about took each other out trying to intercept the ball. But it was just unbelievable. And I think that was the biggest thing that Joseph did. We'll talk about Arnold. Arnold's been getting these pass interference calls. The kid does not care. He just keeps going. And the Lions did such a great job of having Arnold beat him up and then keeping Joseph over top to make sure things, because Branch was all over the place again, and that's a good thing with that is, so you go back to Joseph, he's holding that last line of defense down for us. He's the guy's a ball hawk. And he gets after it, man. So love seeing him play. He's not Buddha yet, but he's getting there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Buddha Baker had quite the game against the Lions, and you saw how important he was to the Arizona defense. Mm-hmm. James, what else were you seeing out of the Lions defense that got you pretty happy with the results?
Yeah, well, Kirby obviously had the nice game. He had 2 pass breakups, which tied with Branch for the team high. With Alex Anzalone out of the game, Jack Campbell played every single snap for the whole game on defense, which was nice to see him be a 3-down linebacker rather than a situational guy, as we've seen, for a year plus now. So that was something nice to see. And you got some other places that came in. I mean, Jalen Reeves Maben had the penalty, which was not good, the late hit. But other than that, he played pretty solid and having to play, a lot of spot minutes because of Anzalone being out, and then the injury that they had at linebacker to Barnes fairly early. You had Ben Neiman was in there playing linebacker snaps even, and didn't look out of place or anything. He was in on one of those pretty key stops, I think, on a running play. And then Rodrigo had 5 tackles too.
I was going to say, we saw Rodrigo in there as well. There were a number of guys who had to step in and play due to guys going out. And it even happened when Brian Branch went out. And Branch had 9 tackles. He led the team in tackles with 9. And that guy is just incredible. And so hoping he is okay. We saw that hit there, that collision between, I believe it was him and McBride, I think. And yeah. So, all right, let's I guess we got to talk about Aiden Hutchinson. I felt like he got better as the game went on, because you talked about earlier, Coach, where he went up a little bit and Kyler was able to escape. But it seems like they did that exact thing we talked about beforehand, which was keep him in the pocket so he can't scramble around. And a couple times the announcers were like, he's got so much time. And he had maybe had a little more time, but I think it was a purposeful and intentional thing, the way they were doing what they did. And Hutch still got a big sack too.
Oh yeah. It was huge. And I, the announcer said that too. Oh, the guy that stepped in, these tackles that are stepping there doing such a great job on Hutch, keeping him off from the sacks. But that wasn't his thing. When he needed to make a sack, he did a spin move and came inside, made a sack, and they covered him on the outside. It was a game plan. I'm telling you, it was a game plan. He knew he couldn't pin his ears back and go ballistic. And how much has he grown, you guys? If this would have been a year ago or 2 years ago, he would have ran by Kyle Murray 42 times in that game. And God, kudos to him and to the defensive staff again, that these guys did exactly what AG asked them to do. And that was keep the shorter quarterback in there and not letting them beat his legs. So that was just a great job by Hutch and the guys.
All right. Well, James, anything to add on defense before we jump over to special teams?
Nope.
All right. Well, the special teams has got to be Jack Fox. The man had 5 punts, 247 yards. His longest one was 68 yards, and 4 out of those 5 punts were in the 20-yard line. And the one that was a touchback, if I'm not mistaken, there was a penalty on Arizona for that, so it got moved back to like the 10-yard line anyway. I mean, that right there gives you confidence when you decide you're not going to go for it and you're going to punt the ball.
Oh, for sure. I mean, what a weapon. Three parts of a game, and we won that weapon. We won that part.
So anything else on special teams you liked? I guess we can move over to maybe anything that we didn't like, right? We'll get to some pivotal moments and turning points. I think one of the things, Coach, you already started bringing up was penalties. Talk to me about the penalties.
Critical
Your favorite topic.
Yeah, oh my God. Critical situation penalties. James already talked about the Maven one. It led to 3 points. We had a 3rd and 1 play, and I think Glasgow jumped. And we had to throw the ball, and we had to punt. We had another one. Sewell had a penalty where he jumped, had a procedure. Those are things and I know those guys are going crazy. They're going to get better. And again, you're on the road in situations like that. But those are critical. In critical situations, we punted on 2 of those, and then of course we gave them, basically set them up 15 yards closer so they could drive in before our half and get 3. We didn't score any points in the 3rd quarter, but we played pretty well in the 3rd quarter.
We did it. And those penalties, they came at some critical times. It seems like that kept the game closer than it needed to be. And I feel like this label of Terrion Arnold isn't fair. That's just my personal opinion. I think he plays better than what his reputation is being put out there, because now he's had a pass interference penalty in every play or every game. And I know announcers are going to bring that up next week too at some point when they're out there covering. But I think he's playing better, and so I'm not concerned about it, but I agree. I didn't like all the penalties that happened at some critical times that just frustrated you because it seemed like we were about to get off the field. James, what were you seeing out of the penalty areas?
Yeah, I mean, not good. Yes, I mean, yeah, like you said, even Sewell jumped. And so that's something that they have to clean up. I think they will. They were not a heavily penalized team nearly as much last year. It seems like that has gone kind of back up, and I think that's something they have to get under control and should, if things go back to what they did last year. So that's something I think where this team can take another step forward and be even better is to control those penalties. And I think you're right on Terrion Arnold. I think he'll clean those up too. And he's played pretty well despite getting a handful of pass interference calls. So that's something that I think that he'll learn. You can't put your hands on the receivers as much as he is. He's got the stickiness to do it without doing that. So, I think he just has to get that through repetition, and maybe getting these flags early in the season is going to be good for him down the road.
How about the Jake Bates missed an extra point? Does that bother you, James?
A little bit, yeah, because you hope it doesn't impact his, mental focus on this, and because that was the question. One of the big questions coming in was how was he doing on extra points? It wasn't how do you do on field goals. It was extra points because he had never done it really in college or in the UFL. So you hope that doesn't negatively impact him and that he has a short memory and can just come back and go for it. I was surprised even on the third touchdown that they kicked the extra point and didn't go for two to try to get back to the number of multiple of 7.
Yeah, because that did make a difference there, making it a 7-point game versus an 8-point game. It's still just one score, but it did change it a little bit. Coach, do you think that missing PAT has any effect, any impact on things, on coaching or the player or anything?
Well, I think his focus level will be raised. I've been listening to Dan Campbell and the guys talking about nothing bothers him. Like he misses a field goal or extra point practice, he just goes on and he's the same guy. So, it's a good question. What's going to happen next week? Is he going to miss another one? But I think you got to go by what those guys are saying, and that it's probably not going to affect him. If we'd have lost, it probably would have really affected him, but we did not. So
that's a good point. And, I was in the tunnel before the Lions game last week against Tampa when the players were coming out to the field. And in general, most of the players are just walking out straight. They're not like interacting with fans or anything like that or any of the media there. They're just kind of walking straight out. But Jake Bates was all by himself, and he had his hands out, and it's like he was concentrating very closely. And so I do think there is something about him as a player that this coaching staff really likes, and you guys have both mentioned it at times. And so, and the fact that we won the game, and it's, you know what, we don't expect him to be perfect for the season. And so I'd rather have that imperfection happen when we come out with a W. And, there's kickers out there that missed field goals today in the NFL that cost their team an opportunity to win. And so I guess one other thing that I don't want to say was, I guess maybe concerned me a little bit, a lot of the second half offense seemed to be a little meh. Now, here's the thing. We were winning the game 20-10. And so offensive strategy can change when you have a 10-point lead and your defense is just kicking butt in general. I mean, the defense was dominating. Like, even when the offense didn't get it done, the defense would often force a 3-and-out. And so, I don't want to be too harsh on the second half offense because I got to believe they changed their plan of attack based on the score and how the defense was playing. Do you guys see the same thing or did you see different?
Penalties. The 2 penalties stopped 2 drives. And so that's what changes that. Again, you go to that 3rd and 1, you got a 3rd and 1, and then all of a sudden you're a 3rd and 2 or a 3rd and 1.5, and you get a 5-yard penalty. What does that do for them? The Cardinals bring their 1 and 2 down linemen and they run a game, and Goff gets pressured, or we throw an incomplete pass, or we couldn't run it. So I think James said it too, they got to clear that stuff up. If they clear that stuff up, we're not having this conversation right now because we probably go down there and score. And that's just my, that's a coaching point in me, which I would be saying in the locker room right now or in meetings on Monday. Dudes, come on. We can't have these penalties in critical situations when we can finish the game and go up by 17 points and the game would be over with. We just kept letting them believe they could come back and play. But our defense made sure that didn't happen.
How about you, James? Any other things that concerned you?
I guess not getting the ball to Gibbs in the passing game at all was something that I thought was odd, and it's like that seems like a thing that should be in your back pocket, a weapon that should be in your back pocket, and I'm surprised that they didn't really do that aside from the hook and ladder.
You're right, because he had 20 yards, but he didn't have any catches.
Mm-hmm.
That's maybe another dimension that they continue to work on, because we know that that's something that can just add one more thing to this team. Injuries, both teams had them. There were a lot of injuries in this game, and Anzalone was already out. Barnes went out. I saw the play happen. I mean, as I watched it happen before it even came back to it, number 87 from Arizona went really low, straight at him for a block, and that didn't shock me that he was out. Laporta went out, and then he came back in. McNeil was out. Arnold was out for a little bit. I honestly think the play it happened on, it could be wrong, but it looked like the Kyler Murray run, and when Kyler Murray went down, he kind of went head first, and it looked like he went into Arnold's leg there. And then Brian Branch went out late after that collision with McBride. Budda Baker was out for Arizona, but lots of injuries, and we're seeing that all around the NFL right now. So hopefully, whatever it is, if it's just coincidence or whatnot, these players can heal up, get healthy, and be okay. Because from a personal standpoint, that's just as important, even more important than the professional standpoint, but they both go together. And so you don't like seeing those injuries.
Oh yeah, it's scary. I tell you, the funny with the Laporta one at halftime, as soon as I see him going off in the cart, I am in a total panic mode going, what is going on here? So I called up, Darren Keaton called me. You guys know Darren. He played for the Lions. He was in the NFL. And I said, oh my God, I can't believe, I think we just lost Laporta. He went off on a cart, and he goes, dude, it's right before halftime. They got him on the cart to get him in the locker room to evaluate him. Instead of putting him in the tent, there was only one play left. So he's probably got a sprained ankle. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. So that kind of made me feel better. And then when I saw him walk out on the field, I was like, thanks, DK. At least I enjoyed halftime a little bit.
It's good having those resources to reach out to, because, that's stressful when you hear that or see that and don't know what's going on. Well, guys, let's talk about some turning points in the game, some pivotal moments. Now, the first one I want to put out there is that 4th and 1 play where Arizona went for it, and the Lions stopped them, but they gave them the first down, and the Lions had to challenge it. And that's where Arizona could have kicked a field goal. That was huge. Did you guys say, was it Davis that made the stop?
Yes.
Okay. And so, I give Campbell a lot of credit for challenging that play because, it was a big moment. And so, and Arizona chose to not kick a field goal. They chose to go for it. Those 3 points could have changed things later in the game as well.
Huge. Huge. I mean, Carlton Davis' play on that is, and I'm sitting at home, of course, analyzing, going, they're not running that ball up the middle. He's carrying the ball around the edge. Somebody stay on the edge. And talk about Carlton Davis's, in his coverage concept, looking for him to come and to be able to get there. I think James said it earlier. I talked to him about, he is a little short. He was short on the play, and his shin was down. Thank God he wasn't taller, because maybe his shin would have been down, but it was still short of the ball. So it was huge, man. That was a huge play. That was, one of the biggest plays of the game.
James, any turning points or pivotal moments that jumped out to you?
The Kirby Joseph pick, I think, was huge. The Cardinals seemed like they had a little bit of momentum going at that point. And I don't know, that just I think it kind of turned the Jets on for the defense, and they just, continued to pitch the shutout for the rest of the second half. So I think that was just massive in that game, as far as just keeping the momentum and not letting Arizona get anything back.
That makes a lot of sense, and we both agree, or we all agree, the hook and ladder play was fun to watch, and it just, again, the amount of motion the Lions are using, it does create a little misdirection. It didn't always work. There was one end around they were trying, and Budda Baker was right there to just slow it all down and cause the havoc. But I thought the Lions picking up that 3rd and 12 as well, which we talked about earlier, was big because they got the first down, led to the touchdown on that drive. And on 2nd and 8, on that final drive after the David Montgomery run, the Jared Goff bootleg. That was so brilliant because the way he rolled out, if somebody's there, he can quickly throw it to him for an easy catch. He can take the sack if he's going to get tackled just to keep the clock running, or he can run forward. And him running forward for that, again, that was that got you the over on the Jared Goff rushing yards there, James. And I believe this is 3 weeks in a row. I think once is unique, twice is a coincidence, and 3 times is a trend.
Yeah, got him 8 yards, and then he lost 1 in each of the 2 kneel down plays, so he ended up with 6. So all good. And if you put that bet down there on Vegas,
I want to shout out to Lions fans in Arizona. Anytime they pan that stadium, there is a significant amount of blue. You saw on social media before the game the amount of blue going through the corridors. That's Arizona. This isn't just like traveling closely. You don't see anything like that at Ford Field from the visiting fans. And so that was darn impressive to me. James, do you kind of witness the same thing?
Yeah, there was, and even on TV, I couldn't see, the sound or anything like that, but you could see the blue in that stadium, and there was a lot of it. I mean, just nice to see how the Lions traveling so well the last couple, 2-3 years even.
Coach, we even heard Jared Goff chants through the television a little bit. So that, again, tells you there's got to be enough people there to create that type of thing. And James, when Dan Skipper reported, you heard cheers from the crowd. Okay? So that's pretty impressive.
It is. Well, I saw a thing on Friday. I think it was Friday or maybe Saturday. The plane landed with all the Detroit fans in the plane that landed in Arizona, and the pilot sang the Lions fight song over the speaker.
Nice.
Yeah, he was, so the whole plane was singing. It was hilarious. So that's when you know that we're in good shape on away games.
One other item I want to bring up here, there's a few yet, but I want to bring up, I believe it was Chris Myers. Was Chris Myers doing the broadcast for Fox Sports? I think it was him. He kept bringing up the 2-minute warning before halftime and the interception and how the Lions got so lucky and that you couldn't review the play because of the way it was, even though it looked like they had snapped it before that. What he didn't say, what he failed to say, is that you could hear whistles being blown, so players stopped playing, which is what resulted in that interception. So it's not like the Lions just got lucky. That play happened the way it did because of the whistle being blown. And it just felt like they weren't doing a good enough job to create the accurate picture of what really happened and creating a false narrative. That's how it came across to me.
Here. James couldn't hear it, but it was driving me crazy. It was driving me crazy. And if you threw a touchdown pass, would they have said the same thing? You're exactly right, Matt. The whistle, even Dan Campbell talked about it in his press conference, that he could hear the whistle being blown. The offensive line didn't look like they were doing anything. The receiver stopped. So, hey, it was blown dead. End of story. Quit bringing it up.
Yeah, and again, it played into that narrative of, the Lions got lucky. It could have been this or that. No, the whole thing happened due to that. James, you mentioned this in a text message to me earlier. Let's talk about that non-existent losing streak getting extended. What do you got on that?
Well, yeah, that they haven't lost back-to-back games, I think, since in the 2022 season. So 2 seasons of not losing back-to-back games, and I think that goes to the coaching of the team. I mean, that's a thing where the coach will not let you lose back-to-back games. If you lose one, they're going to get you ready for the next one after that. And the players taking that coaching as well. But I think that's just a huge thing. If you don't get on those losing streaks, that's just going to be massive for this season.
Well, James, you're exactly right. And I'm going to go back to October 23rd and October 30th. Those were the last 2 games in a row. That was actually when the Lions started the season 1-6, right? And they lost to the Miami Dolphins for their 5th loss in a row, okay? Since October 30th of 2022, the Lions have not lost back-to-back games. Coach, that James just said it. That's coaching. Talk to us about that.
I mean, James hit it. He hit it right there. It's like everybody looks in the mirror at themselves in that situation. James said the coaches aren't going to allow you to do that, and he's got those players believing that they're not going to lose 2 in a row. I mean, it's beautiful. And again, James said it, and I emphasize again, it's all about coaching, but it's all about guys digging deep inside themselves, saying we are going to do what we need to do so that we are successful. And again, I talked about earlier, not chasing stats. Guys calling, bring me out, I'm tired. Hutch went out. I even saw Hutch go out, which he never does. Then he came back one play later, but at least he went out. Yeah, again, I can't emphasize any more than what James said. It's all coaching and players believing.
No, there's one other thing I didn't bring up earlier, and that was we saw David Montgomery not get the first down on that 4th down and 1 run. And I honestly think the Lions had the first down on 3rd and 2. I thought it was a horrible spot, and I was surprised the Lions didn't challenge it. And then when that happened on 4th down, that frustrated me. Did either of you guys see that? Do you have a similar opinion, or did you see it differently?
James, did you see that very well watching in that Wisconsin bar?
I did. No, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, I thought we should challenge because Monty, you know how he always turns backwards and uses that reverse squat technique to go to get those extra yards. That's exactly what he did. And I felt when I saw it, I'm like, that's the first down. And then when I saw the line judge coming out on his mark, I'm like, he marked that short. And I thought for sure Campbell was gonna challenge. I think he mentioned that in his press conference that he didn't have a good look down the line, but I thought it was a first down.
Couple other things that I've come up with. I think the Lions might be their coaching might be changing the NFL. I mean, we saw Arizona go for it on fourth down multiple times. You're seeing other teams. I think you're seeing a rise in trick plays, and I think you need to attribute this to what the Lions started 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and this trend. And so I just want some credit given to the Lions coaches because I think the other people in the NFL are realizing the benefits of this and the intelligence of it. It's not just all risking. It's not just a gamble. It's advanced stats. It's advanced analytics, I guess. You guys feel that way as well, or is that just a perception from me?
Rams faked a punt today.
Yes, they did. And that was the difference in their game.
Rams faked the punt today. I agree with you. I think they keep saying they're studying Johnson's, but the most studied offense in the NFL in the last 2 years is Johnson. So, these experts, so the Lions aren't going to be as successful because everybody's studying them. Well, everybody's studying them for a reason because they want to be them. And I agree with you on that. I think there's people, they're not going to be Dan Campbell, but they're going to teeter on that line one way or the other. And as they get success, they're going to start trying to mimic them, I think.
Well, to not be Dan Campbell, but it's interesting because Dan Campbell learned from Sean Payton. And if you saw Sean Payton's post-game press conference today, he referenced the word grit. And he said, It takes grit to win. Now, that was a darn impressive victory for the Denver Broncos, one that I don't think anybody was expecting them to have against Tampa. But again, it just was interesting to hear him reference grit because anybody can use the word. It's been used in the education world for years, but Campbell and the Lions tend to be the one that associates grit with that NFL team. But I just thought it was funny to see Sean Payton reference that. Well, guys, before we get to final thoughts, let's look at some overall NFL storylines, overall NFL standings. James, did your bingo card have the Seattle Seahawks and the Minnesota Vikings as the only two teams in the NFC that would start 3-0?
No, I didn't think that was even an option on the bingo card.
So there you go. I mean, the NFC North, a 3-0 and 2-2-1s. That's the best division in the conference, and it's living up to what we thought it would be. And the Minnesota Vikings continue. They beat Houston, and you talked about the Rams with the fake punt. San Francisco 49ers lost today. 49ers have lost 2 games in a row. I mean, it's early. Lots of things can happen, but that's 2 losses they have. So just looking through the NFC like that, though, not what we're expecting. And that happens every year. Again, we're only 3 weeks in. It takes more time to kind of really figure out what's what. But James, what are some early thoughts you have from early the NFL season here after almost 3 full weeks?
Well, the 49ers lost 2 in a row. Like you said, they wouldn't have that if they had Dan Campbell.
or 3 in a row like last year.
I mean, it's just like I think I used this example the other day too of the survivor pool that I'm in. I think that the survivor pool that I'm in had 21 teams. It's the 3rd week of the season. It's already over.
Wow.
Only one guy made it through 3 weeks.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And the Philadelphia Eagles were like so close to starting the season 1-2. So close. And New Orleans looks like a team that, wow, has a lot more ability than I was expecting coming in. And again, everything is early. It takes a few weeks to kind of figure some things out. But those were some things that kind of surprised you. I mean, who thought the Carolina Panthers were going to win today? Andy Dalton coming in, showing that he can still play quarterback.
That one's actually surprised me less than some of the other ones. You get those anomaly games from teams when they make a change at quarterback or a change at coach during the middle of the season, where suddenly players kind of raise their level of play. So that was kind of why I changed in my survivor pick. That I originally was picking against them and had the Raiders, and then I changed it. I didn't change it into a winning one, but I changed it to Cleveland.
Oh yeah, that didn't work. You know what hasn't worked yet, and it could still work because it's a long season. But the quarterback change in Chicago. You know, their former quarterback's 3-0 with Pittsburgh right now, and I know it's more than just one player. But can you imagine the Bears with Justin Fields and like everything they could have gotten for that first round draft pick? But neither here nor there. That's just I don't think anybody saw Pittsburgh starting 3-0 with Justin Fields as their starting quarterback.
No, not with Fields there.
Guys, any final thoughts or big talks about around the NFL, or any final thoughts for the Lions before we get out of here and wrap this thing up?
I'm just going to throw out a couple more things on the defense.
Yeah.
That Kyler Murray was 1 for 11 passing on 3rd and 4th down. That's just a phenomenal number. James Conner, who Jerry and I both talked about, is an very underrated running back in the NFL. 9 carries for 17 yards. I mean, they totally took him out of the game. Through 3 games, the Lions have only given up 1 rushing touchdown.
And that was a Baker Mayfield touchdown.
Yeah.
And James, that stat you brought up, that 1 for 11, that was Arizona on 3rd and 4th down for this game. 1 for 11. Remember all those times last year when it was 3rd and long and the Lions just couldn't get off the field to save their life? 1 for 11.
Yeah, that's just a complete reversal from last season. They're holding teams to 76 yards rushing total per game. That's with the quarterback included. 5.9 yards per pass play. That's pretty darn good in today's NFL. Only 217 yards passing per game. That's pretty low. 83 passer rating. I mean, this defense is legit. Holding teams under 300 yards on average per game, under 18 points. This defense is going to take this team quite a ways if it stays healthy.
Well, they turned Arizona into that one-dimensional thing, and that makes it difficult to win a game when you're one-dimensional. And, hey, Coach, defenses win what?
Championships, baby. Always. Always.
Awesome insights, James. Those are some great pieces of information to drop in. Coach, any final thoughts, any other things you want to share?
No, I'm just, again, happy that we won, but make sure we get rid of some of the mistakes, and let's see how well we can roll against the Seattle team. That's pretty good that we've had some challenges with over the last couple of years.
Yeah, if you would have told me Seattle was going to come into Detroit on Monday night undefeated, I don't know if I would have expected that. I don't remember everybody they played, but they're playing well. They've got an amazing receiving core. We're going to get into that in the preview episode. This might be the toughest receiving core the Lions have faced yet this year, and so the work's going to be cut out. But before we get to that, we're celebrating this. We got Victory Monday. Let's enjoy this win. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. You can find more episodes and content at notthesameoldlions.com. Tell your friends and family about the show. Like, comment on socials. Please subscribe regardless of your listening platform. And until next time, stay gritty, my friends.
O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.